Hey, beautiful soul, and welcome to Transform Your Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Karin Ulrika Hagberg, the Awake Wellness Warrioress. This is the space where we dive deep into all things body, mind, and spirit so you can awaken, rise, and reclaim your vitality, purpose, and inner power. Each episode is here to inspire, empower, and support you on your journey to true well-being, whether that's through conscious movement, mindset shifts, soulful conversation, or real, raw stories of transformation. So take a deep breath, ground yourself, and get ready to be inspired because today we're diving into something truly special. Today, I have the absolute privilege to connect with Danelle Boyles, which I had a heartfelt conversation with 1 year ago now. And Danelle is an international recognized humanitarian educator, holistic practitioner, artist, and consciousness coach based in the United States. Born and raised in the Evansville, Newburgh, Indiana area, she's divinely guided in her mission to uplift humanity through love, healing, and higher consciousness. With a 20-year career as a special education case manager and vocational trainer for differently abled youth, Danelle has since expanded her impact globally, founding Emotions in Art Healing Studios, where creativity, consciousness, and holistic care meet. Her life work weaves together public speaking, writing, art, and global service. As a philanthropic educator and advocate, she collaborates with humanitarian organizations worldwide, advising, organizing, and facilitating transformative educational efforts. Danelle's passion for helping others navigate adversity through healing and consciousness growth has earned her numerous international accolades, including Kalki Gaurav Award, Phoenix Women's Excellence Award, and a nomination for Top 100 Influential Global Voices 2024. Having participated in over 400 global exhibitions, events, and masterclasses, Danelle continues to live and lead through her own ongoing journey and healing and learning and soulful service. And today's title of this podcast is Opening New Doors and Closing Old Ones, the next chapter of Ascension. And oh, what a pleasure it is to have you here today, Danelle. Um, can I ask you, how are you today?
Hello, Karin. It is so wonderful to join you from the other side of the world for this conversation today. I am doing well. Um, just like the rest of the world, I am trying to stay on top of business and personal care and all the things necessary for us to do in our daily lives. And to be able to take time out to be here personally one-on-one with you is a great privilege. And I cannot believe it has been an entire year since we've had our last online live podcast conversation. You know, we've been in touch many times over the year, many conversations and sharing of ideas and live happenings. But to be able to sit down and have this conversation about opening new doors and closing the old ones as we move into our next chapter of our lives and the ascension process is, I feel like, needed for the collective breath that is happening right now with everyone collectively.
Mm. So, so much have happened in the last year in my own life, and I'm sure you've had so much expansion yourself. And it
Mhm.
kind of feels really weird to me. Time at the moment is just a very weird concept to me because it's moving so extremely fast. And, when you feel you've reached a certain upgrade, you kind of think, that's it. And then shortly after, something much bigger happens. And when I reflect back on the last year, Danelle, it's, if I knew
Mhm.
what was going to happen and the amount of growth that I was going to have personally in that last year, I would have just gone, no way. And now we're sitting here, and I'm sure you can say the same. But from a collective perspective, how much do you think the consciousness have expanded in the last year or since we had the last conversation? Can you just go into, you know, where you think or feel that we are right now?
In the moment, collectively, we're very much it is moving in a very fast pace, but at the same time, the whole world is kind of in a moment of this churning bowl of resolving a lot of karmic energy. And we're still moving through a lot of processes that feel very vulnerable. And a lot of people are feeling very vulnerable right now because a lot of emotional turmoil, a lot of things that are necessary before we move into the next chapter. So that pause is feeling very alone and isolated for a lot of people, and a lot of people are feeling that they're kind of stuck in a perpetual loop of karmic clearing, which in some cases this is true. It is very true, because we are in a loop of constantly moving forward and backward to take care of business. But this massive pause is leading up to a very large leap collectively. Um, it works out for different people in different ways, and it appears different in different ways for different people, depending on what type of energy work they're doing. So that pause for some is very large, and for others it's very small. It just depends. For people who are frontliner energy workers, they're very tired right now. They're very, very tired of clearing. The whole collective process has been very long in a very short period of time. If you want me to go into detail in a mind-boggling way, time has moved so very fast, but very slow because we're clearing a lot of time in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So that is why that feeling is there. It's a homeostasis state while all of this chaos and energy and everything is passing through time to be cleared
Mm,
in a paused moment.
mm. Yeah, and I can recall last time we were talking about frontliners, light workers, and that
Mhm.
takes a lot of energy of people that do that, shall we call the behind work, behind the scenes work.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that people are doing it, and some people that are watching this and listening to this, they're going to go, yeah, I know that's me. But there's also people, I believe, that also do work, but they actually not really aware that they actually are doing
Oh
it.
yeah.
So
Yeah, very many.
can you,
Very many.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
very many. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because maybe some of the people that are listening here, they all of a
Sure.
sudden maybe will go, Oh, that actually sounds a little bit like me. And sometimes
Yeah.
it can create a little bit of confusion, hey? And
Yeah.
so can you
Well,
expand on that a little bit?
sure. Whenever we talk about frontliners, the way that energy works is that it is different intervals and layers. There's different layers of density of energy, consciousness, dimensional value. You kind of have to look at it as like living on different floors of apartment buildings, and some you have access to, and some you don't. You know, I described it a little while back as, you're just helping people get to different floors, and some people may not be able to reach other floors. So you drop them off here and then you continue on your journey. And as you move up and down the elevator, greeting and meeting people and helping them along and moving up and down, you know, there's always somebody that has to be on the top floor to hold the elevator. And this person is a frontliner. So, frontliner energy workers are people who are grid holders, reality creators, the ones that go ahead into uncharted energetic territory, and they lay the foundation for where human expansion is going to be built. And this is a very hard job for those people because you have to have a lot of emotional and conscious stability, and to have an understanding of why you experience certain things that you do is very important, because many of the aspects of being a conscious person are played off as mental health issues. This
Yeah.
is a very important thing. That is, finally, I open I open my websites and everything every day to find that there is new founding scientific support to everything that we've spoken to 7 years, that is finally being founded and grounded in scientific history. So now that there is concrete evidence of all of this happening, it's easier to understand and to have resources to go to outside of intuitive channelers like myself. And there's solid evidence, so that now that the scientific people have the information and the know-how and the understanding of how conscious emotional development happens, it's available for people to have more available what they're experiencing.
Mm.
And so when you're speaking on people who are also doing the work, everyone's important in this whole scenario. Um, literally every person. It doesn't matter how much awareness they have,
Mm.
whether they are in a spirit state or in an incarnate state, or they're embodying both, which that's what frontliners do. They're embodying a spirit and incarnate state at the same time, which is difficult in and of itself, because you're either very busy and around a lot of people, or you're alone and quiet by yourself and isolated. There is no in between, hardly at all.
I'm laughing
But
now because it's just so spot on me.
and it's, I love whenever I speak to people and they're like, "Oh, is that what's going on with me? Is that why I feel so absolutely discombobulated?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's, to give you an explanation." But people who are empathic in and of themselves are just on a different level of their journey. There's some people who have been working towards this for thousands of years of consciousness and conscious integration. Um, Me, myself, I consciously have told myself that I'm done with the human game many, many times, and that this is my last lifetime. I think I'm probably on like my third round of saying that I've incarnated, I've left, I've lived in the spirit realm, I've been a guide. I've been a guide and incarnated at the same time. So it's very confusing whenever you're experiencing different things. But empaths, people who are energetically sensitive, people who experience anxiety or panic attacks, this is all contributed to conscious, emotional, human expansion. And any person who is experiencing empathic ability is someone who traverses some ground of energetic exchange, that you're a transmuter of sort that helps lay this groundwork
Mm.
in energetic territory, and when you grasp an understanding that I'm not just a human that's struggling with,
Mm.
feeling overwhelmed or emotional issues, it is a tremendous opening to being able to understand like who you are fundamentally and what you're doing here, not just as a human, but also as a spiritual person that's having an experience. But
Mm.
you know me,
Yeah, yeah.
I can, I can go on and on about this kind of stuff. So please,
Yeah. No, it's
you
really,
carry on.
I find it really fascinating now watching, near and dear ones, kind of going through the expansion, and I can
Yeah.
see it causes a little bit of confusion, um, and it's like the soul is really nudging them to connect and to feel, and
Yeah.
that we can't explain everything. Not everything is, through science and in the books, and this is what's wrong with you. That like low, like the real 3D, and I look at, but I
Yeah.
can see that there's something stirring, and as a light worker, it's the thing that I find is quite the harder thing is you have to just sort of be the observer and watch it, and you can be then
Yeah.
you do the energy work around, but you
Yeah.
can't interfere in their expansion journey, their consciousness journey. It's something that everyone has to do themselves, but especially when it's near and dear ones, and because I'm so tuned in and tapped in, and I see things, and you just want to kind of go in and help along.
You do, you
Yeah,
do. It can be hard. It's like you want to say all the things and share all the things, but not everybody is able to see, feel, and experience the same.
yeah,
And so they just won't understand. And you have to be very humbled and respective of everyone's process. And, I so much preach that you can't sit in just one or the other in shadow or light. You have to sit in both because you are working in both. You
that's
do not become a light worker by just experiencing highly expansive, you know, meditative practices and mantras. That's not those are all wonderful, wonderful tools, but that's not what it's all about.
it's about.
Yeah, it has lived in shadow.
Yeah, it's kind of how we can function in both realities, and
Yeah.
stay true to ourselves and where we are, and
Hmm.
be really respectful of where other people are. But what I was going to say, it's really interesting you're saying all the like the mental conditions and stuff like that um can be a sign that people really tuned in and tapped in. And do you know what? Just years ago, I mean, I always thought that people that are suffer, well, I shouldn't say suffer, that's definitely the wrong word, but experience like schizophrenia,
Hmm.
for example, I always was guided.
Sometimes it can be suffering when
Yeah,
they don't
well,
understand. Yeah.
they don't understand now, but it is, they actually connect. It's real. They are
Yeah.
highly connective. And it's funny you're just tapping into that, because just the other day I actually posted something about it. And I guess just putting it out there so people can watch and get a different perspective and just reflect on it, because you know
Mhm.
I have realized through the years that when you are functioning in a slightly different way, how you work, I always thought that other people were exactly the same, Danelle. And through the years, I've realized that no, they actually not. And once
Yeah.
I gained that awareness, um, it also helped me. It also helped me understand a little bit better, um, because that's just being aware of how, I guess, you function, and
Yeah.
not
The
every
human condition.
exactly. Um,
Hmm.
we need more of that, I guess, that message out there to everyone that no one is broken, everyone is perfect the way
Yeah.
they are. And maybe you can expand on that because you work a lot in that area. So people maybe that listen that think that they operate or they feel different. Maybe you can go in depth a little bit to kind of make them feel that they're not broken.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. As you know, I work very expansively with individuals in private care and holistic care. And I also work globally with individuals who live in circumstances that are very broken circumstances. It places them in life circumstances that, perhaps they have gone through a lot of trauma. They've gone through a lot of experiential things that have led them to lives of feeling like they don't have an escape from their circumstances, or that they don't have access to a way out, or they are carrying so much burdensome, I hate the term baggage. A lot of people use the term baggage, but I hate this. But it's where it's compartmentalized. You're carrying a lot of compartmentalized trauma,
Mm.
and it will make a person feel very broken, because whenever they're experiencing expansion, you are required energetically in order to advance. And a lot of people hear the term advance energetically and they think, oh, that sounds, I don't even know the term to use for it, but it sounds like something that is privileged, you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
And that's not the case. Energetic expansion is basically the everyday movement of human expansion. Every minute of the day, we're going through some form or cycle or another that is pushing us into an expansive state to grow consciously, emotionally, and even physically, because as we process through energetic expansion, your body is expanding. Using the marshmallow analogy, when you put a marshmallow in the microwave, what happens to it? It puffs and then it shrinks. And the same thing happens to our bodies when we experience energetic expansion. And a lot of that is why we experience digestive issues, because the expansion of energy within our body presses on our organs, it presses on our bones, so we get a lot of aches and pains and pressures in our chest cavity and such. Um, but it's the same with people who feel like they're traumatically broken. They have difficulty releasing because they have so much trapped trauma
Yeah.
that they don't feel like there's an escape from it.
Mm.
So that's where a lot of people who are very high energy workers, the whole term that you can't heal another person, no, thank you. I can release trauma from a person's lifetime in a couple of sessions, just with a couple of hours of energy work with them. Years and years of trauma can be released simply by utilizing frequency work, energy work, conscious energy work.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can heal another person. And then it leads them onto their path of healing themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's maybe like helping people, like you're kind of the space holder through that. So yeah, we all
Yes.
need, that's probably how I see it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We're just there to kind of help people along in that process, and we
Yeah.
that because I absolutely
Yeah.
agree. We can have so much trauma stored, and if it's not released,
Mm-hmm.
well, we're stuck. We get in a pattern of being stuck, and we start to feel like we're broken. Um,
Yeah.
so if I
And
s-
I am not benign to this, even as an energy worker and a holistic practitioner. Um, And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I think we have a delay in our
We do
signal.
have, yeah, we do have
Were
a,
you done talking?
like, you can continue. I was,
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt if you weren't.
yeah,
But in the whole holding space. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I have a delay, and so
yeah, I
it
can,
looks like you're done talking because then you're sitting still. So I don't mean to interrupt. But being the space holder, and you are anchoring them, grounding them, and holding space for them while you're helping them clear, these traumas and the trapped energy sources. And even we, as seasoned energy workers, we're not benign to that. We have other people that help us as well, and it all works in tandem, which is why we work universally in the higher, lower conscious states that are constantly oscillating, and we're meeting each other in different spaces. So it all works in tandem. And so
absolutely, absolutely. And I think, I mean, anyone that's listening that are perhaps struggling a little bit through this time now, to maybe reach out to someone that can hold the space or do some clearing or energy work to make it a little bit easier. And also a reminder that, I mean, we are not broken. It's all these things around that we need to, um, get some tools and strategies and clearance off too to make it a little bit lighter. And as I said, Danelle, it's an ongoing journey. There's times where we feel really on top of the world, and then there can be days where we just drop back, or you know so that's
oh, absolutely.
just part of our
Yeah.
journey,
Yeah.
living as a soul in this human experience we're in at the moment. And it is I was going to say, it's a freaking awesome one. I mean, it's a privilege to be part of this, that we chose to be part of this time.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And
Yeah.
what I wanted to say, last time when we spoke, you were talking about that, you know, as I can recall, that the frontliners now are in about the 5, 6 dimension, I think you said. Where,
It's sorry, go ahead.
just expand a little bit on that, and where you feel that with in terms of the dimension, because there's a lot of talk, the 3D dimension and the splits and where we are. Can you expand on that a little?
Well, it's very misconceived as to how this is explained. And as somebody that's a channeler, I'm very partial to just listening to my own intuited information. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people who are misinformed, or they hear things that sound like they might fit, but they don't really fit. So I'm very much one that I intuit and channel my own information. I don't take on a lot of information from other people around me because it's very convoluted. But the way that we operate in the multiple layers of existence, and 3D is gone, by the way. 3D is completely dismantled. It has been for a hot minute. People still refer to it. 3D does not exist anymore. The energetic value of the is gone. And so we primarily live in 5, 6, and 7. And there's a handful of people who reach above 7. When we first began this journey, and we were anchoring the headspace for the next 2,000 years of the ascension process for humans, generations behind us. Some of us were anchored up into beyond the 24th dimension,
Yeah.
which is wild. It's ultra realistic. Everything is so ultra realistic in that conscious space. And so, as we have anchored that, many have had to then traverse their way back from anchoring there. And it's kind of like going through a layered cake, and you're working your way back into a more human state, because that is a spirit state that most people who are anchoring that conscious state, it's almost an entire spirit state. As I was referring to being in a spirit guide state while you're also incarnated. So that's why many people who have experienced this journey have had a lot of time that they're very alone. They spent a lot of time by themselves on journeys, being isolated, because that energetic space is not touched by other people. It doesn't exist for them, not for a long, long time. And so predominantly, even energy workers, they're predominantly in seventh dimension, and the rest of the collective is fifth and sixth. And the reason for that is there always has to be a headspace to move into consciously. You kind of look at it as like a gridding of a computer. For people who are technical, it's an easier way for them to understand it. But it's just layers. It's many, many layers. And I often have said I would love to sit and draw it out, but I send all of the conscious information that I ground and download out. And because I can't do everything and I can't be the one to discover everything, then it's like, okay, so now this person is going to create this and this person's going to create that. So it's starting, a lot of that is starting to come into fruition, to be able to have a visualistic idealization of how the conscious information is perceived.
Mm, mm, mm. There's so much happening now in the world out there. By the way, I'm not really in tune with what's happening out there because I don't pay hardly any attention on that space. But a lot of people come to me and they say, oh, the world's just gone nuts. What is going on? And
Yeah.
And it is pretty wild out there. It's like it's all just breaking down now, and the cracks are starting to show, and it can cause massive confusion and also massive fear. So,
Yeah.
you know, why do you think all these external events are unfolding the way they are now, and not just the human kind of events? I'm also talking about all the events that are happening on, Mother Gaia when it comes to earthquakes and natural disasters. Can you expand a little bit on that? Because a lot of people are, um, talking about the end times. So can you expand on?
Um, yeah, I can. And in my perspective and in my channeled perspective, the world is on fire. And we are upon a time of collapse because those worlds are collapsing. And to a certain extent, the world has to experience somewhat of that turmoil, unfortunately, as we process into higher collective consciousness, because there are particular world events that have to happen. And we are accelerating through many years of world events. Accelerated ascension, is basically timeline collapse. In timeline collapse, you have to experience a particular lineup of events that then moves into a higher conscious standing. So, like I was saying, we're moving 2,000 years into the future. The world events still have to happen. You have to imagine it's kind of like being held in a bubble while this ticker of time is just very quickly moving through the body and the consciousness and expansion efforts, and that includes world events. And so if 100 years into the future, Israel or Palestine or whoever, Pakistan, Bangladesh. I have so many friends and colleagues in so many of these other countries that I see, all these things happening, not just from a human perspective, but on a personal, impression, because I know so many people personally in these other countries, so it's not easy to always watch. But, when you have these things happen, and, if it was supposed to happen 100 years into the future, and they had all of these life events that were leading one collapse of a particular world order that is coming to an end in order to bring world peace, then those timeline events are still going to happen, but in a very collapsed, condensed, almost like all those moments in that timeline over the course of 100, 200, however many years, are all going to happen
Mm, mm,
at once.
yeah.
So it's
Mm.
consciously, we're moving about 12 hours every 30 minutes.
Huh.
That is the actual conscious perception of timeline movement that has been happening progressively for the last 4 years.
Can you say that again?
So,
12 hours
yeah,
of
yes. Time is being collapsed
yeah,
into 12 hours every 30 minutes.
every
So
30.
consciously, yeah, yeah. And sometimes I believe it's faster than that.
Mm, mm,
But when I intuit information, when I ask, what we're experiencing, why we're experiencing it, what is happening, and I'm informed that it's 12 hours every 30 minutes in a homeostasis state as time is moving through accelerated,
mm.
you know, that will help you put into perception why people experience mental health issues.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you have that much expansion moving through your brain at one time,
Mm, mm,
it's like you are in fast forward. You're in fast forward
yeah.
constantly at times. So,
Yeah.
and that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh,
But yes,
that's
that leads
yeah.
up to, yeah, and it is fascinating. And these are all things that scientists are now starting to discover, that we are in a state of acceleration, because they're wondering why our planet is evolving faster, why the solar system's evolving faster. Well, why did this star cluster develop so fast and then burst into a galaxy? Like there's so many things that are happening on a grand scale that they're finally going, oh, aha,
Yeah.
and watching things like the Schumann resonance and recognizing everything that is happening.
Yeah. And that I want
So
to tap into that, the human resonance, Danelle, because now that's becoming kind of nearly a normal topic for
it
conversation. And
is.
I find that fascinating. People go, how's the human resonance today? How's
I'm
the frequency today?
so grateful for that. I'm so grateful. When
Yeah.
I started speaking on this 7 years ago, people thought I was absolutely insane.
Um, yeah, it's funny.
When
But
I started channeling and downloading, people thought, oh my God, Danelle has absolutely lost her mind. And I said, just wait. I
yeah,
said, just wait. I said, in a few years, I said, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. And
yeah.
yeah, so I'm very grateful.
So there's a lot of activities on the sun, lots of
Yeah.
flares, obviously impact, the Earth's
Mhm.
frequency and expanding everything. And
Yeah.
it's fascinating. And
Oh, the solar expansion is so much,
yeah, yeah,
so much.
yeah. And you can't,
Yeah.
as I always say, the light is here and it cannot be stopped. I mean, the truth can't
No.
be hidden anymore. It will just come out in the light. And that's and it's happened on it, such speed now. It's incredible. And,
Yeah.
when these shifts, just from a personal perspective, I mean, the two of us are feeling it, no doubt that. when there's shifts in the human resonance, but it can be as quick as I can sit here and all of a sudden I just feel a what was that?
Yeah.
It is so such a shift. And it actually happened
Yeah.
yesterday, and I can be on super, super high, and then all of a sudden it's like a drop, and it drops
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
rapidly.
Very, very rapidly.
Yeah,
Well, even as we sit here, it's
yeah,
a constant stream of channeling. It's like a computer, basically downloading information nonstop. It's a nonstop train, and
yeah,
it can't be stopped. If you struggle with it, you can ask, for assistance with how you're managing it. I personally am not good at asking for assistance with guides. For external support. I am a main support for thousands, millions of individuals. So I always figure it out on my own or with my higher self. I do ask to be shown certain things, but I have a very hard time asking for help unless I'm at a very peak, bad physical day that I'm going through a lot of elements. I'll be like, okay, I'm like, hold up. This is really intense. Can we please just like back it up just a little bit?
It's funny you're saying, there's a reason, obviously, why we have connected, because nothing is obviously a coincidence, and
Yeah,
we're so similar in so many ways, Danelle, how we
absolutely.
process things.
Yeah.
But people that are starting to have, shall we call it a dark night of the soul, or they starting to connect with or they don't maybe even know that they are nudged to, you know, start their spiritual journey, so to say, and they feel all these shifts and aches and pains, and
Mhm.
the mental state is all over the place, and they start to wonder,
Mhm.
um, can I just ask you, what would you say to people? Maybe some people are listening and go, well, what do I do? How do I cope through all this? What sort of, what would you suggest to people that are starting to accept that, okay, I'm a spiritual being and all these things, their consciousness awareness is expanding. So
Mhm.
please, Danelle, give me some tips of how am I going to navigate through this?
Yeah, I do get that a lot. Being a guide, not just incarnated, but spiritually. I'm constantly pinging, people talking to me consciously. So I'm always answering questions here and there. And the easiest answer is balance. You have to find a balance of what works for you as an individual, because whenever you're traversing the process, you go back and forth between being able and wanting to find a way to manage it, yourself or holistically, or through practices of grounding and energy work, and allopathic care. Uh, and a lot of people have a very hard time with that because allopathic care is still therapy, uh, medical prescriptions that help with managing physical symptoms, because every aspect of the expansion process is physical and mental, like literally everything. Everything from the top of your head to the tip of your toes involves energetic expansion, from your appetite to your sleeping habits to the way your autonomic nervous system operates, even down to movements. Like everything is channeled through
Yeah.
timeline movement and energetic cycling.
Mm.
And so a lot of people are struggling with the medical issues of heart palpitations and arrhythmia, digestive issues, problems with uh, having like temperature dysregulation, things that they have normalized as being illnesses and sicknesses, traverses a fine line and holistic care. So I just tell everyone you have to be open to discovering different things that can fit your needs. What worked for you one day may not work for you the next day because you're embodying two different belief systems, two different autonomic systems, two different energetic systems, and you're traversing from an unconscious state to a conscious state, as well as a physically non-expanded to a physically expanded. Once you go through the physical expansion, you have far less illness. I went through when we were anchoring the highest conscious states. I went for years and I didn't have any illnesses, any problems with mental health. Those are just things you don't traverse whenever you sit in 70 and higher. It's very, very minimalistic. So swinging back, and this is not just for people who are beginning their process, but also light workers who don't understand why they're now traversing grounds that they're feeling illness and embodying a lot of physical ailments again. And that's why, because you are now having to go through and complete cycles that you had not completely cleared out. So even people who have been anchored into highest expansion, they are falling back into a lower, more human state and having to clear out a lot of that physical anomaly. And they're like hating it because they're having to go back to using some allopathic care when they haven't used medical care for years. So that's balance. And that's a very long answer, but it's a detailed answer to help people understand why they're feeling so conflicted with what they need right now.
No, I think that was a very wise answer. It's all about balance, isn't it? And
Thank you.
I mean, accepting that space. We go up and down, and sometimes we do need to. I mean, we got to remember that we have a physical body still, and got to do what we need to do to help us along all the planes.
And don't be afraid to reach out. That's the big thing. People are afraid. People have been conditioned to be afraid to speak about things that they're experiencing. And I did like a whole podcast with Dr. Rohi in India about that, about traversing the stigmas of being able to reach out, step out of the box, not be afraid of criticism, and understand that a lot of what everyone deems as anomaly is not. You're not abnormal because you're experiencing something. It's been diagnosed as abnormal.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's really not.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good one to not be afraid to reach out and get some help through this process. It's very talking about health. How do you think Mother Earth is holding up right at this point? How's Gaia holding up?
I feel like Mother Earth. I traverse a very fine line with organic and inorganic aspects of the human concept, because being an integrated conscious individual, I know that a lot of our being is integrated from artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is basically us in an altered dimensional state, because we are different states of individuals in different dimensions, different lifetimes. And that's a whole nother conversation. It's a hard one to crack, because it takes a very open belief system to be able to understand that. So, but for me, I feel like Mother Gaia in our existence is not happy, but is happy with the processes that is currently happening, because we are aligning, we're bringing in new belief systems of who, what, and why we're here, what we're supposed to be doing, and the changes that we're making and helping individuals to learn and grow, to better care, not just for ourselves, for our fellow humans, for
mm,
our planet,
mm.
you know. So it's kind of like playing a game of chess, being put in place to make those changes happen. So it's getting better, but we're having to go through some rough stuff before we get to the better part.
Absolutely. And just, I mean, there's a lot of people and a lot of podcasts about, you know, that a lot of souls are going to leave this earth, big mass extinction, what's it called? Extinction event. Um, what's
Event, yeah.
what's your take on that? Do you think that a lot of human souls will not be able to navigate through their consciousness shift and actually leave? Or what is your personal feel into this?
That's a very hard one because that is something that, excuse me, has in the last handful of years really been brought into my awareness of why death happens. Um, Death among humans is a very sensitive subject because of attachment to our people, attachment to our emotions, attachment to loss. And, you know, death is basically, a person's end of their life contract of their experience here. And it's hard, it's hard to think of it in the human aspect, but when you're able to embody the concept that this is just, it's the end of their journey here, and there is another journey elsewhere that is waiting for them to join it, to take part in, and it's something that they fear, but they look forward to at the same time. I feel like in that aspect, we have, it's so hard because it gets so in depth in beliefs and the layers of things that are hard to traverse and communicate to people, because those loved ones do go to different parallels. It's just they have come to an agreement that this is as far as I go in your parallel. And so they're still embodying a life somewhere else. Death just releases you from this current timeline.
Mm,
There are many other timelines out there that still exist. So it's, and I understand this on a level that a lot of people don't, because I am an intuitive channeler for people who have passed and left this parallel. I channel people who have um, had accidents, and have drowned or have left through murder, or, to clear their karmic footprint here.
mm,
Um, I So I have a very different concept of what all of that means. Does it mean that I have any less emotion about it? No, I still have very human emotions about it.
yeah. Okay.
Um, but I do feel that there's a lot of souls that, and I see it. I see it on a personal level. I see it on a level with friends. Every time we go through a conscious shift and we move forward, I see friends lose people to immediate deaths like heart attacks or accidents and things that are,
Mm,
you think are avoidable, but it's like when you're in acceleration, it happens very quickly.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think we're in a times of complete surrender and let go. And if we can be in that space, and it's as a human being, that's not always easy, but it's the place where we have to kind of come into acceptance now. That's how I feel. It just becomes harder if we don't accept that. So
Hmm.
just to where we are now, and that I think as humans we realize that. we actually don't have that control, and
Yeah.
we've been in the, I don't know if that's 3D, but we've kind of felt like we got control of everything, and then all of a sudden we like rocked as a whoa. I don't
Yeah.
have control, and
Well,
we can see things. I can see things around, and sometimes there's a little bit of sadness because it's like I see there's a timeline shift, and it's like nearly sliding doors. Eventually we'll just go, however that happens, if it's through death, accident, or this person will just literally just disappear out of your life. And
yeah.
I find that fascinating. So it doesn't have to be through physical death. It can just be they. And I actually spoke
Yeah.
to the other day. It's so interesting.
It's spiritual death as well.
I mean, it is a spiritual death, and that's really interesting you're saying, because I've gone through that with many, many humans in this life, and that's not always easy either, because it is a death, and um, how it functions in my life at the moment is that people and events come into my life, and they can come in very quick, but they also go very quick. It's like the universe or whatever. It just says that wasn't in line with the energy or where you're at. So it just goes and it's gone as quick. And I've had to come into that acceptance too, that that is just how it is
Yeah.
at the moment. So how do you feel about that? Is that something you experience too, Danelle?
Oh, yeah, in all kinds of ways. And the thing that a lot of people take into concept is that in those realities that we don't, in the reality that they are in, we have also left them. So, you
Mm,
know,
yeah. So it goes
it's
both ways.
yeah, it goes both ways. Yeah. I've lost many people in the last handful of years. My spouse, 4.5 years is one of them. We've spoken on that. I channel him all the time. He's always reaching from wherever he is and seeing, experiencing, and signs and songs, and he's a very intelligent person. So I know he completely understands the exact same way that I do. It's things that we even spoke on before he passed, of having an understanding of, the concept of dual realities and duality.
Mm,
Um, this is why so many people experience sensing other people in their realities, because reality is just layers. And so the reason why you experience ghost is because they are still living in a very, very sheer veiled reality that is adjacent to yours.
yeah.
When, when the concept of death is understood, that it's just a shift, a conscious shift,
Yeah.
it will completely discombobulate the whole concept of passing and moving on. It's like getting in and out of trains.
Yeah.
But it's still being human, and having the human conscious condition. We still experience it as loss. It would be unsympathetic to not have an emotional response to death. We still have our emotional karmic contracts to people. We still have to clear our emotional footprint before we move consciously. And this is why, we grieve. You know, grief has to be transmuted, the same as any other
Absolutely.
process.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but it
Danelle,
does get easy.
yeah, I think that depending on our perspective, it does get easier. And to have this very, I mean, I find it personally quite hard to understand that someone can have such a simplistic view that when we die, and that's the end, and that's it. There's
No.
nothing. I spoke to someone and I thought, Oh my God, they don't know me at all. I just left
It's
the message.
it's so heartless.
It,
No,
it
it's like
is, it is so hard.
no, the end of a journey, and it's always going to be an emotional concept, and of losing
Yeah,
individuals. People who are energy workers experience death that a lot of us don't understand as well as the spiritual death. Whereas whenever you are moving through a conscious state into a highest self, you shed many layers of yourself in different dimensions.
yeah,
And when that happens, there theoretically really is a death of that person as you embody your new energetic self.
mm,
And there's always someone somewhere on this planet that experiences that,
yeah, yeah,
and they sense it and they see it. And it's like in that last timeline that death is experienced,
mm,
it's experienced consciously for many people.
mm.
Um, so there's just it's so involved and intertwined. Being an organic human on this plane of existence seems very simple, but it's not. It's extremely involved. It's extremely conscious, and sometimes sometimes I am a little envied of those that still carry a more simplistic view, because the more conscious you become, the more complicated your thought process becomes.
Oh,
And the
absolutely.
more responsibility you have to carry all of this embodied information.
Isn't it
Mm,
interesting? We tapped into that last time that, all the experiences we have, and often the harder they are, it it wakes us up, but it also, as you say, it gives us more responsibility because the more consciously aware you become, you carry more. So um,
yeah.
that's it's not always easy. But what I was going to say, you know, you mentioned spiritual death, and it's something that I haven't actually um, spoken to many about, but many, many years ago. And I didn't know my consciousness was at a completely different level, but I actually explained it to people. This was,
Mhm.
um, you know, a few people very close to me that I said I was going through. They I've gone through a grieving process. They like dead to me, and I had no idea, Danelle, that what I was talking about was actually a spiritual death, and it was as hard as um, going through the human death process. So I feel that that's something that we can expand on perhaps another time a little bit more.
Yeah,
And what I also
absolutely.
feel that I'm guided to explore a little bit deeper with you is the AI, and from more of a quantum perspective, because
Yeah.
that is fascinating. I've spoken recently to an awakened soul about that, and
Mhm.
how that can actually help lift their consciousness. It's in the quantum field. So that's
Yeah.
another. And when you mentioned that, I realized that you're aware of that too, and how we utilize that
Mhm.
tool. And people talk very are partly scared of the AI, but it can also be used in a very, very powerful way from a quantum perspective,
Yeah.
as I see it. So we have
It's
so
really
much,
important. Yeah.
we have so much
Yeah.
to, we can talk forever. We've spoken just over an hour now. We definitely, if you're open to, we can do another
Mhm.
podcast about maybe those two topics, and just keep building, because I think that there's many listeners, particular now, um, that need a little bit of support. And by us doing this, we are contributing in a huge way to the collective consciousness rising. And
Absolutely.
so that's what I feel guided we should be doing. What I want to say to the listeners, the internet was a little bit unstable, so at times it was dropping out, and hopefully you got to hear
Mhm.
most of it, and you got the
Mhm.
understanding of it, because it was a little bit breaking up and a little bit of delay here. Um,
Yeah, well, we did go through several energetic events while we've been recording just in this last hour. So it always
they
interferes with the technology.
Absolutely. There you go. Everyone here know that that's the case now too. But it's, as always, I feel so incredibly blessed to have you in my field, and you're still around here, and we're working together and up and forward from here. And I thank you so much from my heart, Danelle. And you're such a beautiful, beautiful soul. I see you, and it's just wonderful to have you here. I'm sure all the listeners and the viewers will say the same. And so, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone that's been listening. But I want to ask you, Danelle, if there's anything else you want to share to the listeners before we finish off here.
Oh gosh. I always have so many things to say. It's so hard to always just choose, messages and I just want to say that always know that you're not alone, and there's so many others out there that are also moving along the same path and similar trajectory as you. And there are very many people out there that are open to supporting you in what you're moving through, no matter what phase or stage that you are. And just always be open to knowing that you are always supported. And I so very much appreciate the time, the humanity, the respect and the privilege of being able to do what I do and have it help so many people
Mm,
in their process. I think that's probably the most important thing, is that I am so humbly privileged in what I do. And I thank you, Karin, for having me on here today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and be part of your audience and to be part of your life and to be on this journey with you along in my circle of people.
mm.
It's very important.
Thank you so much, Danelle, and thanks again to all the listeners for being here.